It is Friday, Tolos. I know you're excited. I'm excited. There's nothing better than a football Friday here in the upstate. It's a high school Friday night football happening, college football happening tonight and tomorrow. College football even happened last night. We'll get into that as well, but it's so good to be with you. I am live at Eastside High School where I'll have Burns Eastside for you tonight right here on the Fan Upstate. Diesel is out today on a little vacay. I don't even know. I think he said he was in a golf tournament or going to a brewery. I can't remember exactly, but Diesel will be back on Monday. So good to be with you. If you're watching live on the stream, I know it looks a little different as I'm set up in the old press box here at Eastside High School with the sun shining in. It's a little bit warmer than it was this morning, starting to feel a little bit more like fall, but so good to be with you. You can listen to the show 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 FM in Greenville, anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. And you can watch the show. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube. Bruce on the Facebook stream has already asked a very, very important question. And I believe that's Amazon guy who is in the Upset Picks Challenge. But Bruce asked, are you accepting upset picks today? Well, I'm glad you asked the question. Yes, of course. Bruce, Amazon guy, we're still accepting your Upset Picks Challenge. So the Upset Picks Challenge continuing to roll on this Friday. You have until about 6:52 to get your upset picks in. I know the show ends at 7, but we officially go off the air around 6:52. If you don't know what the Upset Picks Challenge is, it's not too late to join. You can join the Upset Picks Challenge by texting in 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Again, that's 71307, keyword fan. We need, if you want to enter the Upset Picks Challenge and you have not done so yet, we need your name. We need the game that you want to choose, the team that you want to choose, and we need the amount of points. DB, who does a fantastic job helping us organize the Upset Picks Challenge, sent me the spreadsheet or the document, if you will, where all of the upset picks are located. So to answer your question, Bruce, on Facebook, yes, we are accepting upset picks today. I'm glad you asked the question because it's your last chance. And I believe, I'm not 100% certain on this, but I believe we are about, 21 or 22 Tolos away from breaking the all-time record of Tolos in the Upset Picks Challenge. So what you have to do, Tolos, is find a game out there from ESPN.com that you like the underdog to win the game outright. Not cover, but win the game outright. Once you pick the game, again, text the show 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We need your name, your game, and the amount of points on the game. So whatever the spread is, that's what we need. If you want to enter the Upset Picks Challenge, I have NC State. So I'll give you an example. I have NC State this weekend. If you want to enter for the very first time, what I would do is I would text into the show. I'd say Cole, that's my name. I would say NC State plus 10.5 because Cal is favored over NC State by 10.5 points. That's my upset pick of the week. Give me the Wolfpack. Who do you like? Appreciate you listening to Wire to Wire today. Welcome in. I'm Cole Bryson. Again, Diesel is out today. He'll be back on Monday, but I'm live at Eastside High School getting you ready for Burns Eastside tonight. Producer Ben doing a fantastic job, as always, back in the Ingles Market Studios. Appreciate you, Ben, being there and answering the phone calls, getting the text in, and getting our guest on the air. We have a huge show coming your way. Speaking of guests, we're going live to Los Angeles, California at 3:40 today. So about 35 minutes from now, we're going live to LA. We're going to talk to Michael Duarte, who has come on this very program before. He's a good friend of the show. Michael Duarte of NBC LA. He covers the Dodgers, the Lakers, and the Rams. He is at Dodger Stadium right now as the Dodgers and the New York Mets are going at it in Game 5 coming up at 5 o'clock. That game's early. So what is that, 2 o'clock start on the West Coast? Did I do my West Coast math correctly there? So a 2 p.m. first pitch in L.A., and Michael Duarte of NBC LA will join us live at 3:40, not long from now, to give us his opinion, his thoughts on today's game, if the LA Dodgers can close this series out and go to the World Series. They last won the World Series in 2020. We'll accept your phone calls today as well, 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Again, 844-FAN-PHONE. Brian on the YouTube stream says, good afternoon, Cole, and to the upstate of South Carolina. Brian, good to have you with us. It's a beautiful Friday, Brian, but I'll tell you this, man. You know there's one thing that can ruin a Friday? Tolos, do you know what that one thing is? The one thing that can ruin a Friday quicker than any other thing in the world. I'll give you a second to guess. It's I-85. I'm telling you, I-85 will ruin a Friday quicker than anything in the world. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a high school football Friday, if it's a beautiful weather like it is today, really cool in the mornings. Getting on 85 today at Highway 9, I had to go to Spartanburg this morning. I had to go to Greenville today. That's where I am now. I'm telling you, man, nothing will ruin that beautiful Friday afternoon like 85 will. It's bad out there. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's in the water today on 85. I know we have a lot of Tolos who are probably sitting on 85 cursing the traffic as I was an hour or so ago. Sheezy gets his upset pick in. Sheezy, I got you. Loud and clear. Sheezy wants Georgia Tech plus 14 over Notre Dame. So that's the perfect example of how to enter the Upset Picks Challenge. We have over 100 Tolos already entered this week. We're trying to break the all-time record. And it says Sheezy, Georgia Tech over Notre Dame. You know, we talked about that game. Diesel and I did. I don't know if I have a ton of faith in Haynes King and that Georgia Tech offense, man. Notre Dame's defense is really good. And despite Notre Dame earlier in the season having that loss that, don't get me wrong, was not a good loss to NIU, their defense is still really good. It really is. Notre Dame Nate chimes in and says, diarrhea can ruin my Friday. Notre Dame Nate, we appreciate that. A little TMI, but appreciate you letting us know what can ruin your Friday. There's not many things, man, that can ruin a Friday, but Notre Dame Nate says, I guess the runs can ruin it pretty good. I said 85 can ruin it. That's a pretty good answer for me. But I want to get into this in the very first segment, and I want to hear from you, Tolos, when we look at the games this weekend. Diesel and I talked about this very thing about 2.5 weeks ago on the program, and I want to look at the games this weekend and ask the question of who is in danger of dropping out of the playoff contention with a loss this weekend. We all know the playoffs are expanded to a 12-team playoff in 2024. We all know that more teams have a chance to get in, and this is going to be the biggest and best thing ever, right? That's what they say, at least. But the question is, on the Fan Upstate this afternoon, who, with a loss this weekend, is in danger of dropping out of playoff contention? We know that the 12 teams that are going to get in will include the core four conference champions, right? You will also have the at-large bids, and then you also have the highest-ranked team from the G5. So whether that be Boise State, I don't think it's going to be Liberty, but it might be Boise State. So if you look at the 12 right now, you've got Notre Dame, Tennessee, Clemson, Iowa State, LSU, Alabama, and Miami making up the 6 through the 12. On the outside, you have BYU, A&M, Boise State, Indiana, and Kansas State and Ole Miss. They round out the 17-18 mark. Those teams are on the fringe. I don't know if you're in the 20s right now, if you find yourself in the AP poll somewhere between 20 and 25, I don't know how realistic of a chance you have at the college football playoff. For example, SMU's 5-1. And I know SMU's conference record's really good. And SMU has a chance to be they have a chance to continue to be a good team this season. Illinois, they're 5-1 in the Big Ten. Number 22, Pittsburgh, another good example. Pittsburgh 6-0, and they're also in the ACC. Right now, they're at 20. Missouri's at 19. Those are the teams that I look at, and I worry this Friday, or on this Friday, I worry that are kind of out of contention when it comes to the 12-team playoff, because I know the AP poll doesn't decide who gets in and who gets out. But I'm just telling you, man, if the season continues to go on and you continue to find yourself in those 20s, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, I don't know how good your chances are. I really don't. I really don't know how good your chances are. So let's look at the top 25 games this weekend. Who's in danger if they lose of falling out of the top 25? Tonight, Oregon, Purdue. 6-0 Oregon, 1-5 Purdue. Oregon's 3-0 in the Big Ten. Purdue's 0-3. The Ducks are a 29.5-point favorite. No one believes Purdue is going to threaten Oregon, right? Almost a 30-point spread on that one. BYU is interesting tonight, however. Number 13, I don't know if many people out there believe that BYU is a playoff team. They play Oklahoma State tonight, 10:15 p.m. Eastern. BYU 6-0. Oklahoma State's 3-3. BYU is only favored over Oklahoma State by 9 points. BYU's the team that I look at and say, okay, if they lose tonight in the Big 12, I don't know if there's even a national championship contender in the Big 12. But if BYU, the 13th team in the country, loses tonight to an unranked Oklahoma State team, in my opinion, they're toast. There's no way they're making the playoff, because even though the playoff is expanded, it's still going to be a very tight race to get into that top 12 if you're not a conference champion winner. Because, like I said, you'll have at large bids. One of those is going to the highest ranked G5 team, probably going to be Boise State. I think BYU is in big danger tonight. I don't want to sit here and call it upset alert and say that, that Oklahoma State might pull the upset. However, that's a team that I look at that sits at 13 in the country, that with a loss this weekend, and again, they play tonight, BYU would be on the outside looking in. What say you, Tolo? 71307. That's the way you can text into the show. Start your text with the word fan. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can watch the show there. Let's go to the stream first. Tracy on Facebook says 85 isn't bad. Nice little cruise. Yeah, nice little cruise if you want to cruise at 5 miles an hour, Tracy. That's how bad 85 is. Kevin on the Facebook stream says the FSU win, Georgia Tech had not looking so great now. The FSU win over Georgia Tech, Kevin, right? No, it's not. It's not. Georgia Tech, we knew at the beginning of the season, we talked about it on this show. It was, at the time, it was a big win. But I asked the question, the big picture question of, was that really a quality win in terms of where we'll be sitting 6 weeks from now? And it just so happens that 7 weeks after that game, that Georgia Tech win over Florida State doesn't really look like a quality win. Blaylock's Run, Ben in Maryland on the YouTube stream says, ruins Fridays is watching the Yankees win. Go Orioles. So Ben says one way to ruin a Friday is by watching the Yankees win. Ben, do you think the Yankees win tonight? What is that, an 8 o'clock first pitch? It was a big game, and obviously the Yankees need it, right? Ben must not be a Yankee. Well, he said he's an Orioles fan, so of course he's not. Kevin says Bama losing again versus Tennessee would put them in danger. So very good answer, Kevin. I agree with that. Let's take a look at Alabama. Alabama, Tennessee. And I'm glad you brought that up because the question is, if you just tuned into the show, which team with a loss this weekend would put them in danger of missing the playoff altogether? Kevin on the Facebook stream says, how about Alabama? Alabama's 7 in the country, 5-1, 2-1 in the SEC. Tennessee's 5-1 as well, also 2-1 in the SEC. Does Alabama, Kevin, and the rest of the Tolos, does Alabama still have the brand power that with 2 losses this early in the season, potentially a third down the road, they could find themselves still in the college football playoff? Because let's face it, we talked about it the other day with Chris Phillips. They're not a dynasty anymore. Alabama is no longer a dynasty. But do they still have the brand power? The A on the side of the helmet, does that still do enough? I don't know that it does, man. I don't know that it does. I don't know that the A on the side of the helmet means as much today as it did 10 years ago. 5-1 Alabama. If they lost to Tennessee, yeah, they'd definitely be in danger. There's no doubt. They would definitely be in danger. The reality, though, is, Kevin, to answer your question, the reality is, man, the loser of this game is in great danger. Like we talked about yesterday, how this was a must-win game for South Carolina. Let's face it, Alabama, Tennessee, you want to talk about danger zone. I mean, Top Gun fans out there, you want to talk about danger zone? This is danger zone. Alabama, Tennessee, both 5-1, both 2-1 in the conference. A loss this weekend for either team. I know Alabama's ranked 7 and Tennessee's ranked 11, so Bama right now is higher. But I'm telling you, man, and I'm sorry, Madcraft, you're right. There's no A on the side of the helmet. It's just, what is it? Just a number on the side? The A on the jersey. How about that? There's no A on the actual helmet. You're right. Excuse me. My helmet mistake there, Madcraft. The reality, though, is the loser of this game's in great danger of missing the expanded playoff. And listen, the last thing that Alabama fans want is to have to risk this hire of Kalen DeBoer in his very first season. He was handed a 12-team playoff. He was handed a 12-team playoff. And the best thing that could have ever happened to Kalen DeBoer in his first season was an expanded playoff, and he's still on the verge of missing it. He's still on the verge of missing the playoff. So to answer your question, Kevin, they're absolutely on the verge of missing out if they lose. Bruce on the Facebook stream says, Amazon guy putting a pick in soon. Hope we break the streak. Amazon guy, you were hot, man. You were really, really hot. And I apologize, but I believe I jinxed you. I believe I did. I believe I jinxed you. I don't know how many you won. Was it the first 2 or the first 3 weeks of the season? Amazon guy was leading the Upset Picks Challenge. Absolutely killing it. But I said on the air that Amazon guy would not win again, and he says it was the first 3 weeks he won in a row. That's impressive. I said on the air that he wouldn't win again, and guess what? I believe I did jinx him because he has not won since then. So you can continue to get your thoughts in on the stream. Let's go to the text line before we run to a break in a few minutes. 71307. Let's see. Where do we go? A lot of text coming in. Lyman Rob says, Upset Picks Challenge. Taking Nebraska Cornhuskers plus 6.5 for the win over Indiana Hoosiers. Lyman Rob, appreciate you, number one, listening to the program. Number two, Lyman Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is your first time in the Upset Picks Challenge. I don't recognize your name. It seems as if this might be your first time participating. If it is, welcome to the Upset Picks Challenge, brought to you by Ingles Markets. Sheezy says Georgia Tech is going to ruin Notre Dame's Georgia Tech is going to ruin Notre Dame Nate's Saturday. He's going to wish he had the Rhea. Dang, Sheezy. That's rough, man. Texter from the 618. If Army or Navy beat Notre Dame and going to undefeated, they will be in the top 12, says the 618. Madcraft says, I have never wanted Duke to win a football game as bad as I do right now. Well, you know what? I know they're favored by 3, but I'll be honest with you, and I'll get into that game a little bit later. That's a tough one to pick. That's a coin flip game for me, man. It really is. Ty Duncan 864. Upset pick, Louisville over Miami +5. Appreciate your pick, Ty Duncan 864. Buckeye Mike says Purdue will cover and BYU will win. Wow. So you think Purdue will cover? That's a large spread. What did I say that was? Almost 30, right? Let's see, 29.5. Buckeye Mike, I will tell you this before we run to a break. I kind of agree with you. I was thinking about this game earlier today. If Oregon at any point this season, Buckeye Mike, is due for a disappointment, is due for a letdown, this is it, right? Tonight's it. After coming off of the win over Ohio State, if you have a letdown week in the 2024 season, it seems as if it might be this week. So I don't disagree with you. Look, 29.5 is a lot of points. It wouldn't surprise me if it were a 3 or 4 touchdown win for Oregon, but we will see. Amazon guy says, give me NC State over Cal for 10.5 this week. So Amazon guy going with NC State over Cal, 10.5 points. Amazon guy, that was also my upset pick. I also am rolling with the Wolfpack. I'm not very confident in it, but again, that's the upset picks challenge. All right, we're going to run to a break. What happened in the world of sports last night? We're going to recap NFL games, college football, as well as a big night in the MLB. What happened in the sports world last night? Your thoughts and more next. Goodness gracious, Tolos. Goodness gracious, the text line during the break. I mean, did you all decide to get your upset pick in at one time? It seems as if you did. I'm telling you, man, I said on Wednesday that I believed we could break the record, which I think was like 112 in 1 week, something like that. I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head. Diesel told me yesterday, and again, Diesel's out today. He'll be back on Monday. And I said on Wednesday that I thought we could break the record, and of course I believed it, but we're getting there. We are going to get there for sure. Let's see. Just today on the show, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 upset picks in the first 25 minutes of the show. Freaking fantastic, Tolos. Appreciate you getting in on the upset picks challenge. I believe we're going to hit that record today without a doubt. Reminder, we will talk to Michael Duarte of NBC LA at 4 p.m. He was originally going to join us around 3:40. You know, when you're interviewing pregame or when you're doing pregame interviews with MLB players on the field before the game on TV, I guess, you know, wire to wire comes second, right? He asked if he could move to 4 o'clock. So we will talk to Michael Duarte at 4 p.m. Again, he is live at Dodger Stadium in LA for today's game coming up in an hour and a half from now between the Dodgers and the Mets. We'll talk to Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network coming up at 5 p.m. on the program. And again, Burns football tonight. I am at Eastside High School where we will have a region game between Burns and Eastside tonight. The Burns pregame show begins at 7 p.m. Thanks to Ben back in the Ingles Market studios doing a good job. Phone lines are open, 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. That's 844-FAN-PHONE. If you want to chime in on the show via the phone line, that's the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. What happened in the sports world last night? Listen, it was a big night for sports. I don't know what you watched. I don't know if you watched college football, if you watched NFL on, Amazon Prime, right? Or if you watched MLB baseball. We had 2 college games last night, Marshall and Georgia State. We also had Virginia Tech, Boston College. I kept my eye on the Sun Belt game. Marshall ended up winning 35-20 over Georgia State. Georgia State now 0-3 in the Sun Belt. Marshall 2-1, 4-3 record overall. The game that I did watch, though, was VT Boston College. Virginia Tech, Tolos, I don't know if you watched the game or not, but let me know on the text line what you watched last night with all of the different sporting events going on last night. What did you watch? I watched VT BC, and Virginia Tech won the game 42-21. However, they were up 28-0 at the half. And I'm thinking, oh, this one's over. I about flipped it over to the NFL game, but the NFL game was absolutely horrible. It was hard to watch, right? It was not a good game whatsoever. So I kept it on the Virginia Tech game, and I ended up watching the majority of it. It was 28-0. Virginia Tech at the half. Boston College comes out in the third quarter with 21 unanswered points, makes it a 28-21 ball game as Virginia Tech pulled away in the fourth quarter, 14 points in the fourth quarter, ended up winning 42-21. So Virginia Tech over Boston College last night, they're 2-1 in the ACC. Boston College now 4-3 overall and 1-2 in the ACC. So that's what happened in college football. On the diamond last night, did you watch Major League Baseball last night? Did you watch the Dodgers and the Mets? I don't know what it is, but this series, the outcomes have been very lopsided. The Dodgers last night all over the Mets, 8-0. 10 hits last night for LA, only 4 hits for the New York Mets. Wasn't even close. Dodgers scored 2 in the second, 2 in the sixth, 3 in the eighth, and 1 in the ninth. Total of 8 runs. Shohei Ohtani was 1 of 4 last night, 1 home run. Of course, he was good as always. Los Angeles, though, right now, they're just showing off on the mound. I mean, it's, sometimes baseball can be a very simple game, but the Dodgers right now are making it really simple. They're showing off on the mound. They're showing that their pitching is just more dominant than everybody else. Walker Buehler a couple of games ago was fantastic. Dodgers were really good again last night. And, the starters, the beauty of it is the starters for LA, they don't have to go more than 4 or 5 innings because there's not much drop-off, man. There's not much drop-off in the bullpen at all. And this Dodgers team, they're so deep. They're so talented at the plate. There's just, it's very difficult to find a blemish. It's very difficult to find an area of this team that's vulnerable. And, it's just, it is what it is. But a big win last night as the Dodgers now lead 8-0. That was Wednesday night. And then last night, you had 2 games. You had the Dodgers-Mets 10-2 and the Guardians-Yankees, Cleveland 7-5. So the Dodgers ended up winning. As I said, it wasn't close on Wednesday. It wasn't close last night. 10-2 win for LA last night over the Mets. And then the Guardians over the Yankees last night, 7-5. A very good game there. And the Guardians, man, they needed that one. New York now leads the series 2-1, but boy, did they need that one. The Dodgers have won in the NLCS. The Dodgers have won the last 2 games by a combined score of 18-2. Let that sink in. 18-2, including the 10-2 win last night. It's now a 3-1 series lead over the New York Mets. New York Yankees lead the series 2-1. Again, it was a big win for Cleveland last night. I watched the highlights of that game this morning, and it was a good game. Matt Kraft on the YouTube stream says, "That's too bad, man. You missed an absolute classic masterpiece of a baseball game in Cleveland. Freaking phenomenal baseball game." Matt Kraft, it seemed as if it was. It really did. A really good game. And again, they needed that one. They really, really did need that one. That's for sure. So that's what happened last night in the MLB. Again, the Dodgers won 10-2, and the Guardians won 7-5 over the Yankees. And then in the NFL last night, it was brutal. I don't know how many people, I haven't seen the ratings report on this game yet, but just a brutal game to watch. 33-10 as the Denver Broncos just made the New Orleans Saints, who are now 2-5 on the season, look like an embarrassment. I mean, this was a team that started the season 2-0. Again, granted, they had wins over Carolina and Dallas, who both suck now. So those wins don't really look that great now. However, a Denver team who's now 4-3, 3-1 on the road, and New Orleans, who's just pitiful right now, 2-5, 1-3 at their own house. They can't even win at home right now. They've lost 5 in a row. I'm telling you, and I know. Look, the reality is New Orleans has a ton of injuries, and I mean a ton of injuries. Spencer Rattler last night, 25 of 35, 172 yards. Not the best night for him. 0 touchdowns. He got sacked 6 times. QBR of 55.5. Again, the offensive line was not good, but Spencer Rattler, not the best night for him. It doesn't help. It's not good to have to judge a young quarterback like Spencer Rattler when he's kind of in an unfair situation. If you want to look at that game last night and say Spencer Rattler wasn't good, well, that's fine. But look at what he had around him last night. The Saints injury list looked like a laundry list last night. So that's what happened last night in the world of sports. A lot of good games. And again, like Madcraft said, probably the best thing to watch last night was Cleveland versus New York. Keith in TR says, "Am I too late for my upset pick?" Keith, is the show over? No, the show's not over. So you're not too late, my man. You're not too late for your upset pick. We've had several submissions already on the text line 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Again, 71307. If you want to get in the Upset Picks Challenge, we need your name, the game, and the amount of points, which is the spread. Jay Waller chimes in on the text line. He says Jay Waller and Anderson. Jay Waller and Anderson watch Georgia Tech plus 14 over Notre Dame. We'll be watching this one from the bins. Oh, so Jay Waller, you're going, huh? You're going to the game. It's not a home game for Georgia Tech, even though it's in Atlanta. It's at the Mercedes-Benz Dome, right? Jay Waller from Anderson says, love the show. Well, Jay Waller, we appreciate you, man. Appreciate you being a part of the show right here on the Fan Upstate on this Friday. Again, I'm live at Eastside High School. I'll have Burns Eastside for you tonight. Let's see. What have we missed on the text line before we run to a break? Texter from the 978 chimes in. Cole, what's your high school picks for tonight? Specifically, the Landrum versus Clinton game. Well, Texter, I'll give you that pick. And I also appreciate you listening to the show. But Texter wants to know when we're doing my high school picks. Let me look at the run sheet. I'll tell you. What do you want to do them? What do you want to do them, Texter? You may do them in the very next segment? You may do them at 3:45? Let's do it. Let's do my high school picks in the very next segment. So we will take a break. We'll come back. I'll give you my high school picks for the week. A lot of games to get to. Several good games here in the Upstate being played tonight. If you're going to be at a high school football game, text me on the text line 71307, keyword fan. Let me know what game you're going to. And then at 4 p.m., we'll talk to Michael Duarte. We're going to go all the way coast to coast to L.A. to talk to Michael Duarte, who is at Dodger Stadium, and he will give you his thoughts on the big Game 5 tonight. High school picks in the very next segment. Keith and TR gets in on the text line and says, give me Auburn over Missouri +4. That comes from Keith in TR. Final segment of hour number 1 next. In the very last segment, a texter says, hey, are you going to give your high school picks? Specifically, what's your pick with Landrum Clinton? Well, texter, number one, appreciate you listening to the program. Number two, I will give my picks. I'll do it right now in this very segment. You can still get your upset picks in, by the way, on the text line, 71307. Hookset chimes in. Hookset says, I'm taking Oklahoma State over BYU 9 points, I think. You think? What do you mean you think? This isn't a thinking game. You can't just change your pick. Hookset, is that your pick? You think? What do you, or is there more to the text that I didn't see? Let me click on it to make sure. No, that's it. That's all the text. What do you mean you think? This isn't a matter of what you think. You gotta go with it. You gotta roll the dice and get your upset pick in. That's just part of it. So speaking of picks, high school football week 8 is here. Man, high school football, the season flies by. It's too short. I really do think it is. It's almost over. High school football season flying by as it always does. Here are the games in the area tonight. Several of these games were played last night. I know JL Man, TL Hanna was played last night. I picked JL Man. I got that one wrong. TL Hanna beat him. If I pick a game that was played last night, I do apologize. But I'll start with Landrum Clinton, the game that the texter asked about. Look, Landrum's a good team, texter. They've had a very good season. And I like what the Landrum Cardinals have done. However, I do think Clinton's a better football team. Clinton's tough. I mean, they're just tough every year, year in and year out. They're going to be a good team. Look, I know Landrum is 5-1, but Landrum, in my opinion, has not played anyone to the level of what Clinton will present for them tonight. Clinton on the season is 4-2, wins over Lawrence, Newberry, Chapman, and Chesney, losses to Daniel and Woodruff, and those two losses are to very good teams. So I'm going, Texter, I don't know if you're a Landrum fan, but if you are, I do apologize. I'm going with Clinton over Landrum tonight. Hope that didn't upset you, but I'm going Clinton over Landrum. All right, the rest of the picks, the rest of the games going on tonight in the upstate. A big one, Spartanburg hosting Boiling Springs over on the east side of Spartanburg tonight. If you live in Spartanburg and want to see a good game, that one is one that I would recommend you go to. Boiling Springs at Spartanburg, a huge game in Region 2 5A. I am going to tell you this. I think that's going to be a close game. I think Spartanburg has some injuries that are going to impact them tonight. I do believe if Spartanburg had its full stable of horses, especially when it comes to one of their best receivers, it might be a different outcome. And I know every team has injuries. I'm not making that as an excuse, but I like Boiling Springs tonight. I like Boiling Springs to defeat Spartanburg tonight. It should be a heck of a game. I really do believe it'll be a close game. But I believe that Boiling Springs has a little bit more offensive firepower, and I like the Bulldogs to take down Spartanburg tonight. Gaffney Riverside, a game that will be happening just about 3 miles from where I sit at Eastside High School. I'm going to take Gaffney over Riverside tonight. I like Dorman tonight over Wade Hampton. The Cavaliers get back on track. Fountain Inn Westside. Westside, Fountain Inn. Look, I know that Fountain Inn is a new program relatively to the rest of the other programs, but I like Westside tonight. I like Westside in that one. Give me Wren over Lawrence. I like Daniel over Pickens. Seneca Greer is a very interesting game. Seneca Greer, here's the issue there. Seneca's 6-0. So one might see that game and think that Seneca would be the favorite over Greer, but I do want to give credit to a good friend of the show, Trey Stewart of the Greeter Sports Star, who you heard last Friday on the show. He told me earlier, he said, look, he said, I think Greeter wins tonight. Seneca's schedule has not been the best, and I think I agree with him. So I think I like Greeter tonight over Seneca. I do like Blue Ridge over TR. I like Walhalla over Berea. I like BHP over Crescent. I don't think that game will be particularly close. Give me Pendleton over West Oak tonight. Christchurch over Carolina. Powdersville. I like Powdersville over Palmetto. I like St. Joe's tonight over Southside Christian. I like the Chapman Panthers to get their second win of the season. It's been a rough year for Chapman, but I do think Chapman gets back in the win column tonight. They play Union County. That game is at Union County. And give me Chapman tonight. Give me Chapman. Woodruff Mountain View Prep. Mountain View Prep, look, they're very, very good. First year, they've got a lot of really good athletes. That should be a good game. Woodruff can score with the best of them. I know the majority of people will probably pick Mountain View Prep, but I will go on the opposite side of things here. I will pick Woodruff to beat Mountain View Prep tonight. I think Blacksburg gets the win tonight over Bonnie Cone out of North Carolina. Again, Clinton over Landrum. I'll go Chesney over Liberty and Abbeville over Whitmire. So those are the games happening in week 8 of the high school football season tonight in the upstate. Should be a lot of really good games. Again, I'll have the call of Burns Eastside. The Burns pregame show begins at 7 p.m. With myself and Lane Fowler. We'll have that for you coming up at 7. But in the very next segment, we're going to go live to Los Angeles, California. We're going to talk to Michael Duarte of NBCLA. Michael is boots on the ground as we speak in Dodger Stadium. 5 o'clock, 1 hour from now, the Dodgers and the Mets are going to go at it. The Dodgers lead the series 3-1. It should be a fantastic game. I will say this before we get into the conversation with him. I think the Dodgers are going to win tonight. Being at home, them having a chance to win and close the series out at home, I think will just be too much for New York. And look, New York's a good baseball team. I'm not saying they aren't, but I am telling you, with that crowd, the momentum that the Dodgers have, the big win last night, again, in the last 2 meetings, they have won by a combined score of 18-2. I like the Dodgers tonight. I really do. We will go to L.A. and talk to Michael Duarte of NBCLA next. 1 hour from right now, we'll have first pitch in LA in game 5 between the Dodgers and the New York Mets. The Dodgers looking to close out the series and head to the World Series. So glad to be with you on this Friday edition of Wire to Wire. I'm Cole Bryson. Diesel is out today, but he will be back on Monday. Want to bring in good friend of the program. We're going to go all the way from South Carolina to Los Angeles, California, where we're joined by Michael Duarte of NBCLA. Michael, how are you, man? My mistake, Michael. I do remember earlier today you told me you were going to be at the game, and I've been telling the audience we're going to LA. And again, my mistake. We are going to New York City Field. You're right. Dodgers are at the Mets tonight. What's it like in the Big Apple? New York Mets trying to get their second win of the series tonight. What's it like? What's the atmosphere like right now? We're talking to Michael Duarte of NBCLA. He is in New York. I said earlier he was in LA. I stand corrected. He's in New York. If you just heard him, he's standing on the top step right above the Dodgers dugout at Citi Field. So you're hearing him all the way down here in South Carolina on the Fan Upstate. Michael, when you talk about this game tonight, I mean, I talked about it earlier, man. They lead the Dodgers in the last 2 games 18-2, just complete domination. Do you believe the Mets feel as if this series is already over? Wow. We're talking to Michael Duarte. You can give him a follow on Twitter. He's a great follow. He covers several different teams in the LA area at Michael J. Duarte. That's Duarte, award winning journalist, writer, and reporter for NBC LA, covering the Dodgers, Lakers, and the Rams, as well as other LA sports teams. It's interesting when you look at this run, this postseason by the Dodgers, Michael. Obviously, there's a lot of people out there who were wanting a Subway Series in the World Series. I don't know if we're going to get that right now. It doesn't look like we will. But when you look at the potential of the Dodgers being one game away from going to the World Series, I know right now the Yankees lead the Guardians 2-1. But do you feel as if either team is a serious threat for LA, or do you think the Dodgers are just the best team left? Michael, can you talk about the decision to throw Flaherty out there, who has a 3.17 ERA? I mean, from what I heard, the Dodgers considered going with a bullpen game tonight, but wanted to have Flaherty out there to try to close this thing out because in game one, he threw 7 scoreless innings against New York. We're talking to Michael Duarte of NBC LA. He is live standing right near the field at Citi Field in New York, just under an hour from first pitch between the Dodgers and the Mets. Michael, the ratings this postseason have been off the charts. Is this a dream scenario with all the big market teams really playing well for the MLB in your eyes? Wow. Wow.
That would be even more ratings gold for Major League Baseball right now.
Absolutely would. Ratings gold. That's a good way to put it. Michael, you are standing in the dugout. You just said you were looking at Shohei Ohtani's helmet, your boots on the ground. What is it like for those here listening in South Carolina, under an hour from first pitch? The Dodgers have a chance to go to the World Series if they can get a win. Is it a business trip mindset for the Dodgers? What's the feeling? What's the emotion right now from this Dodger baseball team?
The emotion is that they are finally firing on all cylinders. This has been a roller coaster ride for the Dodgers this year, up and down, guys in and out of the lineup. You know, Freddie Freeman, he's kind of like the Iron Man for the Dodgers. He never misses a game. He's missed time this year, not with an injury, but a lot of off-the-field stuff. He was dealing with a very serious medical issue with his son who couldn't walk, and now his son is finally back and walking again. Freddie took multiple times away from the field for that, obviously with the ankle injury that's been bothering him lately. But they've just been up and down. This has been a roller coaster ride, as I mentioned, for the boys in blue, and now they finally feel like they are clicking on all cylinders. Again, I was speaking with Max Muncy before the game. He told me this team is coming together. They're bonding off the field. They're bonding on the team plane. Their families are going out to dinner together. He said this is what happens when a group of guys can gel together. They all have each other's back. The greatest example, as I said, was Game 4. No Freddie Freeman, no Gavin Lux. They don't even skip a beat. They still win 10-2. I don't know what other team you can take a former MVP out of the lineup and maybe they get better offensively in the next game. And that's what we saw from the Dodgers putting up 10 runs. And when I asked Muncy about that, he said, we had his back. We told him, you sit and rest, be ready for Game 5. And we're going to go out there and win this game for you so you can be there to help us clinch in the Game 5. And it's that mentality, next man up. We have everyone's back. If you don't do it, you're going to pass the baton and be there for your teammates. And that's exactly what I think is going on with the Dodgers. And Jack Flaherty just walked by me, guys. He's heading out to the Dodgers bullpen right now. He's got that confidence. He's got that look in his eyes. So if he can replicate what he did in Game 1, I think the Dodgers, they're going to put that champagne and beer on ice right now.
Michael, before we let you go, one of our listeners on the stream asked if, in your opinion, if the postseason continues in the NLCS or even in the World Series, do you think we'll see Ohtani on the rubber this postseason?
Yeah, I talked to Andrew Friedman about that a little while ago. Their plan is still to not have him pitch at all. But I will tell you this. He is still doing his regular routine as if he was coming back from rehab to pitch. He's doing his long tossing. He's doing his bullpen sessions. I would say right about now, if this wasn't mid-October and this was mid-April or May, he would be on a rehab assignment with AAA or something somewhere throwing. I think if you're the Dodgers, you can't risk putting him on the mound, somehow getting injured, somehow something happening where you take his bat out of the lineup.
Yeah.
His bat is too valuable. He's the MVP in the National League, like I said. He's the only member of the 50-50 club. You can't risk taking him out of the lineup. So I do not believe we'll see him on the mound. But I will say that to your question on your streamer and your listeners, is that if there was a potential World Series clinching game, whether it's a Game 6 or a Game 7 at Dodger Stadium, hopefully against the Yankees, but maybe against the Guardians, and they needed one inning, and Shohei Ohtani thought he could give it to him, then that would be the time you'd want to use him and have him come out of the pen and step onto the mound, similar like he did in the World Baseball Classic when he struck out Mike Trout. You put Ohtani out there knowing that if something were to happen, he gets hurt, he has the entire offseason to rest and heal up, and he will be very happy about it if they could celebrate winning a World Series title. So, that would be the storylines and the drama. And, oh, my gosh, what box office gold we were talking about would that be if we could see Ohtani come out to clinch a game in like a Game 6 or 7 at Dodger Stadium on the mound for the first time in 2024.
Michael, you're the best. Best of luck tonight. We appreciate you taking time right before first pitch to join us.
You got it, guys. Have a good game and enjoy the game.
Absolutely. That is Michael Duarte. Tolo's listeners, look, I don't know if you sometimes get goosebumps like I do, but we're talking to a guy in South Carolina who's standing in the dugout at Citi Field, in the Dodgers dugout, as Jack Flaherty walks by, heading to the bullpen for his bullpen session. We are literally, we're less than an hour away from Dodgers Mets at Citi Field. And you Tolos are getting to hear from one of the best, Michael Duarte of NBC LA, who was boots on the ground at Citi Field. Fantastic interview. Very much appreciate Michael for hopping on. That was a lot of fun. You could hear in the background the stadium, all the noises, the PA, the music. I hope it was okay for you Tolos out there. I hope the audio was good. He was literally in the dugout, in the Dodgers dugout at Citi Field. So I don't know how the audio was for you, but it sounded good enough for me. But it just, a lot of background noise, as you can imagine. So much appreciate Michael taking time to join us. We'll get into the game. Dodgers versus the Mets. I'll give you who I think wins tonight, as well as the Upset Picks Challenge. We have had a lot of injuries today, and another chance for you to get your Upset Picks in. On the other side, you can text the show, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I'll tell you who I think wins Dodgers Mets and Upset Picks next. Tolos, who do you like tonight? I say tonight, more like 40 minutes from now. Who do you like, the Dodgers or the Mets? Also, Yankees or the Guardians? NLCS Game 5, ALCS Game 4. The Dodgers lead 3-1. The Yankees lead 2-1. The Yankees and the Dodgers both favored tonight. Who do you like? Dodgers, Mets, 5:08, first pitch on FS1. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Oh, man. So, look, I think I don't want to discount or discredit, rather, what the New York Mets have done. I do think the New York Mets are a very good baseball team. Obviously, if you make it to the NLCS, you've done something right. However, I think the Dodgers close it out tonight. I really, and I know it's at Citi Field. I know it's an away game for the Dodgers, but man, like the decision for them, going back to what Michael said, they smell blood, right? And they have a chance tonight. They were going to go with the bullpen game. Instead, they choose to go with Jack Flaherty, and I think they feel like they have a chance to close this thing out and maybe have a few days break if the Guardians continue to extend this series. It's going to be very interesting. But I'll tell you, I'm going Dodgers tonight. Yankees, Guardians. Ooh, the Guardians needed that one last night, didn't they? They needed that one last night. I think the Yankees and Dodgers both win tonight. I think New York and LA, the big market teams, win tonight. The Dodgers close out the Mets. That's my prediction. We're going to get back into the upset picks challenge. But first, let's go to the phones, 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Dewey wants to chime in. We have coined it our Daily Dewey. Let's see if Dewey has anything good for us today. What's up, Dewey?
I don't have to pick against the Dodgers. The Dodgers are frauds. Dave Roberts, he's not a good manager. Freddie Freeman betrayed us. And they're just spending money and trying to buy championships. The Mets are no better either. So I'm not even watching baseball.
But somebody's got to win, right?
Upset. The winners are the people who are not watching it tonight. And I got an upset pick.
Okay, what is it?
Virginia over Clemson.
Virginia over Clemson. Well, Dewey, hold on. Let me type this in on our spreadsheet. Dewey wants Virginia. Are you serious about that, or are you just picking with your heart here?
No, Virginia over Clemson.
I don't know about that.
At some point, Clemson's going to have a hiccup, and this is going to be their hiccup game.
A hiccup game, Dewey calls it. Dewey, appreciate that. Did you hear Dewey by chance yesterday after you called in with your wonderful take, as you always have? Did you hear the texter who said that we want, the Tolos want Dewey to have his own segment? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Dewey?
If you pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'll do it.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and Dewey is down. Dewey, appreciate the phone call. Don't know if you're going to get that. You can call the show, 844-FAN phone, 844-326-3663. Dewey says this is the hiccup game for Clemson. I don't know, man. That's a bold move, Cotton. That's a bold move. I cannot say I agree with you there. What's the spread of that game right now? Has it moved at all? Let's go look. I don't know, man. Could I see Clemson at some point this season not playing for their potential? Sure. I don't feel like they played to their potential against Florida State. They still won the game, but Clemson's still favored by 20. So Dewey is officially going Virginia over Clemson plus 20. Let's see if Dewey can get on the board. What's crazy about that, as I pull up the upset picks challenge standings, what is absolutely crazy is if Dewey were to hit that, and by the way, I'm going to the Fan Upstate Twitter to see the standings. If Dewey were to hit that and he were at 0 points, Dewey would find himself all the way up to probably 29th or 30th place. So that's how you can move up. If you hit big in this upset picks challenge, you can move up pretty quickly. However, do I see Dewey on the board anywhere? Let me look. Dewey, this might have been Dewey's first time playing. I don't know. Anyways, the upset picks challenge, 71307, keyword fan. That's how you can enter. We are, let's see. We've got a lot today. By the way, texter from the 474 text in and says, love the show. Keep it up, Cole. Well, 474, we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you listening to the show. Upset picks challenge today. Oh, man, we've had a lot of entries. We might have already broken the record. We needed like 112 or 113, or was it 120? It was either 112 or 120, Diesel said yesterday. We've gotten just today, in the first hour and a half, we've gotten submissions from Shane W., Buckeye Brian, T-Ray, Trey in Kentucky, Hookset, Keith and TR, Jay Waller in Anderson, J-Rock, he took Oregon State +6 over UNLV. Let's see, Grandpa Bucky got his upset pick in, Matt J, Amazon Guy, Buckeye Mike, Ty Duncan. Let's see who else. Is that all for today? Or no, Sheezy got his upset pick in. Lyman Rob got his upset pick in. It's been a good day so far. So if you want to get in the upset picks challenge and you have not done so as of yet, you can do so. You have until the show goes off the air, which is about 6:52. 6:52, 6:53 is when we go off the air. So that's how long you have today. Don't wait until the last minute to get your upset pick in. So basically, if you haven't played before, you're taking a underdog to outright win the game. We keep a tally week to week of this, and it's week 7 of the Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles Markets. Right now, here is the leaderboard. The Tolos, we've had over 150 total submissions, I believe, in the entire season. Twisted Whisker leads the Upset Picks Challenge right now. Twisted Whisker is in first place with 56.5 points. So basically, if you don't understand how this thing works, if you hit on your pick, and let's say like Shane W. picked North Texas plus 11.5 to beat Memphis, well, you get 11.5 points. If you hit next week for 10 points, well, you add that 10 points to it. It becomes a running tally, a running total, and that is how you get your upset pick in. Twisted Whisker sits at the very top, 56.5 points in this year's Upset Picks Challenge. Very, very impressive. Noel sits at number 2 with 51.5 points. John Dog at 3 with 44 points. Buckeye Brian at 4 with 38.5 points. Josh Pate is at 5 in our Upset Picks Challenge. He has 36 points. Billy Horn has done really well the past 3 weeks. If I'm not mistaken, Billy Horn, who is 6th with 34.5 points, I believe Billy Horn has hit 3 weeks in a row in this thing, which is freaking incredible. Let's see. Reed Atkins at 7, 33.5 points. Reed Atkins and Joe D are tied at 7. Reese Davis from College Game Day is at 9, 32.5 points. Amazon Guy, we saw him get his upset pick in just a few minutes ago. He has 30.5 points, so that's your top 10. Amazon Guy at 10, Reese Davis at 9, Joe D and Reed Atkins at 7, Billy Horn at 6, Josh Pate at 5, Buckeye Brian at 4, John Dog at 3, Noel at 2, and Twisted Whisker at 1. Also in the top 45, we have Coach AJ, Mike Main, Kevin Buggs, Brendan Gosnell, John Corley, E. Thotty, Justin L., Bomo, Roger Carper, Greenville Gamecock, Tyler B., Dion, Mazenbrew, Jake Crane, Nick Saban, he's at 25 with 22 points. Palmetto Buckeyes, Brendan from Moore, James Owen, Jess, Scotty Mack, and Brian Pettit, all in the top 30 of the Upset Picks Challenge. From 32 to 45, we have Brandon and Spartanburg, T-Ray, Clemson Oculus, Rev Red, JT and Greer, Fred Savage, CJ and Greer, JC, JB, Sheezy, Notre Dame Nate, Brian Andrews, Scotty from BMW, and Sherb. That's the top 45 of the Upset Picks Challenge. I'm telling you, man, this thing is super challenging. That's why it's called a challenge. This was my first year. Obviously, Diesel and I started the show back in what, February or March now, and I honestly thought that I would have done a lot better. I've only hit one time. In 7 weeks, I have only hit once this season. I picked South Carolina to go on the road and beat Kentucky. South Carolina was like a 10 or 11-point underdog, and I picked the Gamecocks, and that was the only game all season long that I actually hit on. So it's tough. It's very difficult. And for those that are in the lead, man, hats off to you. Hats off to you. If you go to the Fan Upstate on Twitter, you can see the updated Week 8 standings for the Wire-to-Wire Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles. There are a ton of Tolos that are not in the top 45 that are in smaller print that are at the bottom of the graphic, kind of like and receiving votes. Big thanks to DB, who is absolutely a Excel spreadsheet guru. Big thanks to DB for organizing this Upset Picks Challenge year in and year out. He does a fantastic job. So if you get your pick in today, I will send it to DB. He'll put it in the spreadsheet. He keeps up with all the standings, and then obviously the spreadsheet next week will reflect the games that happened this week. Again, I'm not very confident in mine. However, I took NC State over Cal. NC State's 3-4, Cal's 3-3. Both are 0-3 in the ACC. It's a 10-point spread. NC State's like 0-6 this season against the spread. They haven't even been able to cover the spread, much less pull the upset. So, again, I don't have a ton of confidence in NC State, but they do play Cal. I'm telling you, man, there are some games that I looked at. Notre Dame, Georgia Tech is a very, very popular entry this week. Notre Dame, 12th in the country, playing at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, playing at Georgia Tech. Notre Dame is favored by 14 points. Haynes King, Georgia Tech. We know Georgia Tech's a good football team. They're 5-2. However, Notre Dame's defense is really good. And Vegas feels as if Notre Dame's defense will shut Georgia Tech down. Notre Dame's favored by 14 points. That will be very interesting to watch to see if Notre Dame does lock down Haynes King and does lock down Georgia Tech. I almost picked that game. I almost picked it. There were some that I looked at, but that was a game that intrigued me. I almost took that game. And then the games tonight. Let's see if any Tolos took any of the games tonight. Florida State, Duke tonight. Duke favored by 3. Obviously, you could pick Florida State to upset Duke, but you would only get 3 points. So let's say, for example, Florida State 1-5 beats 5-1 Duke, and you pick that game, you would have 3 points on your running total, which really wouldn't do anything for you. Or kind of at the point in the season now where you have to start picking big spreads. Oregon, Purdue tonight. I don't believe anybody picked that game. I could be wrong, but I don't think anybody was dumb enough to pick Purdue 1-5 to beat Oregon, who's 6-0. And by the way, since the show started, that line has moved a half of a point. It's now a 30-point spread in favor of the Ducks. Oregon's favored over Purdue by 30 points tonight, 8 p.m. Also tonight, Oklahoma State, BYU. BYU favored by 9. Oklahoma State's 3-3. BYU is 6-0. And that game is at 10:15 tonight. Fresno State, Nevada. Fresno State favored by 3. I did see a few entries in the upset picks challenge for Oklahoma State over BYU, but there weren't many. There were not many Oklahoma State picks. Not a lot of faith in the Cowboys tonight over number 13 BYU, so that should be a very interesting game. Justin L. chimes in on the text line 71307. Justin L. says he wants Georgia Southern plus 10 versus James Madison. You know what? That's been Justin L. That's been a semi-popular pick. I'm trying to find what time that game is. I just don't know. Like, the only reason I would say you might be onto something, sometimes JMU is a little up and down. JMU's not the most consistent football team in the world. So, I found it. 4 o'clock on Saturday, Georgia Southern. You know what? That's not a bad game. That's not a bad pick, Justin L. I have seen that one come in several times this week already. But Georgia Southern, I think it's a winnable game. They're 2-0 in the Sun Belt. JMU's 1-1. JMU's 5-1 overall. Georgia Southern 4-2. A 9.5-point spread as of right now. Again, these lines were locked in at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. So I don't know if that line was exactly the same now as it was on Wednesday, but that's an interesting one. I'm not going to lie, Justin L., you might be onto something there. You might be onto something there. JMU favored by 9.5. And Madcraft says that was his pick as well. On the text line, Dion gets his upset pick in. Dion wants Southern Miss plus 7 versus Arkansas State. Sherb gets in on the text line, 71307, keyword fan. Sherb says Virginia plus 21 over Clemson. Sherb, are you kidding me? I mean, you're really swinging for the fences, right? Dewey also picked that game just a few minutes ago, Sherb. I don't think it happens, but if you did hit, and let's say you were at 0 in the upset picks challenge, you would find yourself from 0 all the way up in the top 20 just from picking that one game. So, look, I know it's swinging for the fences. It would be interesting if you did hit Sherb, but good luck to you. I hope it doesn't happen. Scotty from BMW chimes in on the text line. Cole, I picked FSU, and those 3 points are going to be nice to pick up. Scotty, a 1-5 FSU team versus 5-1 Duke? How confident are you? How confident are you? And I know Duke's not good, but Florida State, if Duke's not good, Florida State's not relevant, right? They've struggled this season. So I know that's a coin flip type game, according to Vegas, but man, it's just really hard to put a lot of faith in Florida State right now. Joey chimes in on the text line and says, give me, oh God, Joey. Joey, really? Are you serious? Joey says, give me Purdue plus 30 over Oregon tonight. Joey, what are you smoking? What are you smoking, Joey? Purdue plus 30. All right, let's look. Let's just say, for example, that hit tonight. Where would you find yourself, Joey, if you, let's say, for example, you were at 0, no points on the board in the Upset Picks Challenge brought to you by Ingles. If you were to hit on that tonight, and Oregon lost to Purdue, which is not going to happen, you would find yourself at number 11 in the Upset Picks Challenge. So you would jump hundreds of Tolos and find yourself at number 11, which would be a mighty, mighty jump, not a mighty, mighty duck. I don't know. Look, I like swinging for the fences, but I just don't feel real confident there. Sorry, Joey. All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, I'll give my predictions for Clemson, South Carolina tomorrow. Clemson and Virginia, South Carolina and Oklahoma. We'll get into that. And then at 5 p.m., we'll be joined by Matt Smith of Sports Talk Media Network. All that and more coming up right here on Wire to Wire. It's the last segment of hour number 2. We're joined by Matt Smith of Sports Talk Media Network. In the very next segment, Matt Smith joins us every Friday during football season to talk a little South Carolina and Clemson. He'll join us at 5 o'clock. Cannot wait to chop it up with our guy, Smitty. He does a fantastic job. Covering both Clemson and South Carolina. Speaking of the two Tolos, I want to give you my predictions, but I also want to hear from you. 71307's the text line. Save it in your phone. I say it a lot because, well, I don't want you to forget about it. Just start your text with the word fan. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can hop in on the chat and give me your thoughts there as well. But what do you Tolos think about South Carolina and Clemson and their respective opponents this weekend? Clemson hosting Virginia, South Carolina on the road at Oklahoma. What is your score predictions for both? Or if you're a Clemson fan, you can give me your Clemson-Virginia score prediction. Or if you're a Gamecock fan, you can give me your South Carolina-Oklahoma prediction. That line, South Carolina versus Oklahoma, that's a very fascinating line because I believe it opened at 3.5. It's moved from 3.5 to 1. And I mean, on the other side of the coin, it started at Oklahoma Oklahoma minus 3.5, and now South Carolina's favored. Not often do you see flips from one side of the coin to the other. Usually it stays on the same coin or on the same side of the coin in terms of who the favorite is. But Oklahoma and Vegas opened as the favorite. As of right now, the Gamecocks are the favorite. The Gamecocks are now favored by 1 point. Basically, the movement shows that a lot of money this week has come in on this game on Oklahoma, and now South Carolina on the road at Oklahoma. This game's basically a pick'em. This game is basically a pick'em game, and Vegas. It's not often that Vegas is kind of in the middle and just doesn't know where to go. Now, obviously, money and the amounts of money that come in on these games majorly impacts the line movement. We all know that. But man, it just doesn't seem like Vegas has a grip on this one. So who do you think wins? South Carolina, Oklahoma. Several texts coming in on the text line 71307. Tolo Mark says Gamecocks by 6. So Tolo Mark gets on the text line and gets his prediction in first and says Gamecocks by 6. South Carolina in this one, it's very interesting that they've been very turnover happy. We all know the Gamecocks, they need a win. We talked about it yesterday. It's a must-win game. It really is. They can't afford to lose another one. And to me, South Carolina on paper is the better team. I know these games aren't played on paper, but they are the better team in my opinion. They cannot continue to turn the ball over. Make no bones about it. If you want to go out and play in the SEC on the road and you want to win games, you have to take care of the football. South Carolina has not taken care of the football. Elton, text me personally. Elton and Dean, they both want to chime in. They say Clemson wins, South Carolina loses. Well, you're not Clemson fans, are you, Elton? I mean, no bias there, huh? I mean, Clemson wins and Gamecocks losing. I don't know. I think Clemson and South Carolina both come out with a win this weekend. They both, Clemson, Virginia, that game, in my opinion, won't be very close. South Carolina, Oklahoma, I do think will be closer. Right now, again, South Carolina's favored by 1 as of today. It'll be very interesting to see if that line moves anymore. But it did flip. South Carolina opened as the underdog, and now they are the favorite. We'll continue the conversation as well as get to a lot of the other predictions that came in on the text line. Matt Smith of Sports Talk Media Network joins us next. It is hour number 3 of the program, Wire to Wire. So good to be with you. I'm Cole Bryson. Diesel is out today, but he will be back on Monday. We are efforting our normal Friday guest, Matt Smith, Smitty, as we all call him, of Sports Talk Media Network. Ben, he did just text me and say, try back now. I believe he had his phone on Do Not Disturb, so you should be good. Ben, appreciate you back in the Ingalls Market Studios. I am live at Eastside High School over in, I think I said Greenville earlier, and I know Taylor's is in Greenville, but it's technically Taylor, South Carolina. You can continue to get your upset picks in by texting 71307. Brandon Burnett just got his upset pick in a few minutes ago. You have until the end of the show, which is about 6:52:30 to be exact, to get your upset pick in. Don't forget to do so. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. You can also continue to get your predictions in for South Carolina, Oklahoma, as well as Clemson, Virginia. On the text line, a good bit of predictions came in during the break. Lyman Rob says Oklahoma 24, South Carolina 17, Clemson 42-21 over Virginia. Lyman Rob, we appreciate you listening to the program. You can continue to get your text in, and I'll get to the other texts and messages on the stream momentarily. But let's go to the phone lines. The renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, where we're joined by Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network. Smitty, before we get into South Carolina Clemson, I know you are a Dodgers fan. About an hour ago, we talked to Michael Duarte of NBC LA, who is in Citi Field. He came on the program looking at Jack Flaherty standing in the Dodgers bullpen or in the Dodgers dugout. Smitty, do you feel confident in your Dodgers tonight?
Oh, I wish I were where he is. I would love to see it. I don't know. I guess I am confident, but it is the second time the Mets will have seen Flaherty, and you just can't count on drawing 7+ walks every time out as an offense. So I'm confident. I'm confident they're going to win the series and move on to the World Series, but it's every bit of it is nerve-wracking. You know what baseball is like. I mean, I was on pins and needles up 7-2. It's just that kind of sport, and the Dodgers have had so many injuries. I know nobody wants to hear a Dodgers fan with a $350 million payroll whine about injury, but about $150 million is on the sideline right now with Glasnow and Kershaw and Freeman and several others. But I'm having a lot of fun. Baseball season and baseball in October, man, it's the best. When your team is still playing, any Braves fan can tell you it's so much fun. Yeah, they can tell you from 2021, but that's about it, Smitty. I mean, come on. I mean, we're throwing shade here. No, come on. Oh, no. I lived through the 90s, man. The 90s. Come on.
Listen, is it bad? Is it bad, Smitty, that the Braves, and I know the Dodgers have had the highest payroll for like a million years, and they won the World Series in 2020, but the Braves, it's worse. You have the best team in baseball, one of the best teams for these 8-year stretches, like they did in the 90s, like they did right now, and you just get one championship. That's all you get, right?
Yeah, they got 95 and they got 2021.
Well, I mean, one per era. One per era. You get one championship per era.
You're right about that. That's right. Maddox, Clav, and Smoltz get one. And in 21, Ronald Acuna, and now they've got, Ronald Acuna Jr., Spencer Strider on the sideline. Frankly, they just had bad luck the last couple of years, have the Braves, with some of the injuries they've received. They're a well-run organization. Dodgers, Braves, we have our history. Mm-hmm. Old NL West, used to, as a matter of fact, 91 when they went worst to first, that was the Dodgers they had caught in 91. Tommy Lasorda's chances are getting slim fast. There's a lot of vitriol between the Dodgers and Braves, but you won't hear a lot from me because I just respect so much what that organization has done the last couple of years. I think the Braves have just been a well-oiled machine and just have had a little bad luck. So all the Braves fans, if you want to take shots at the Dodgers won't hurt my feelings. I'm a fan of the Braves organization right now.
Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network joining us right here on the Fan Upstate, usually at 4, today at 5. Smitty, thank you for being flexible. Very much appreciate that and your flexibility. South Carolina tomorrow in Oklahoma needs to score how many points to win?
That's the question, isn't it? The total is set at 41. And look, I was critical of South Carolina's offense, and I want to give credit. Talk about giving credit. Cole Bryson, you were one of the few voices out there last week saying that South Carolina may bounce back and play really well on the road against Alabama, and they did. They did. There are a lot of arguments to be made if the ball bounces a little differently that South Carolina would have won that game. So I'm absolutely giving you a lot of credit for that. I didn't give them a chance. You may remember that was the crux of our conversation. I didn't give Wake or South Carolina a chance. How many points? I'd like to say somebody's got to score 3 touchdowns, but somebody could win this one 20-17. And just last week, you saw South Carolina, Kyle Kennard, get a safety, force a safety, and then Jalen Kilgore come up with an interception that gifted South Carolina 3 points before halftime. So how many points can the South Carolina offense score? How many will they need? I don't know, 17-21. But that defense may come up with a score of their own or set South Carolina up as they did against Old Dominion and LSU and last week at Alabama with some room service touchdowns. Well,
if you have a question for Smitty, get it in on the text line 71307. Start your text with the word fan. A lot of South Carolina, Oklahoma predictions coming in on the text line right now. Smitty, do you have a high school game tonight? If so, where at?
No, they're off. So because of all that went on in your part of the state, the high school league came out with this ruling and wanted to extend the league season by 1 week.
Right.
So because of that, Myrtle Beach and Socastee opted to move their game to that extended week at the end of the season, so they have a game before the playoffs. And so I'm out. I'm off this week, and of course Burns is off. It's just East Side. Practical bye for Burns this week too. I won't say it so loud they hear it in the press box.
I was going to say, don't get me shot at over here. I agree with you.
Too many friends in Greenville County. Too many friends in Greenville County.
It's interesting. We talked about it all week, Smitty. South Carolina, like the perception, which we all know, perception is reality in a lot of ways, but the perception is right now, when you talk about the Gamecocks, they just can't close these games out. They can't finish. But I think sometimes, Smitty, we overcomplicate things. We overcomplicate conversations. I feel, and tell me if you push back or disagree, I feel as if when you talk about the Gamecocks, it's very simple. It's turnovers. You take away those turnovers, and Lenore's putting the ball on the ground and putting it in the wrong team's chest. South Carolina's talking about in 2024 going on the road and beating Kentucky, beating LSU at home, beating Alabama at Alabama, and all of a sudden Shane Beamer has a statue outside Williams-Brice. Is it that simple to you, or is there more to it?
Well, what you just said is 100% accurate. Turnovers and penalties, and South Carolina still, after they did a little bit better last week, but still 70. They're averaging 70 penalty yards per game, which is that's just a ton. And they had a holding penalty. If you think back, Alex Herrera missed the 51-yard field goal, but that drive had already gotten down to the 23-yard line, but then was brought back by a holding penalty, the negative plays. So, yeah, you're right. What you said is 100% accurate. Penalties, negative plays, and turnovers. But that is part of a bigger conversation, which is there is some youth on this team at key spots, including quarterback. And Lenore Sellers, he might grow into one of the best we ever saw in this part of the country at doing what you're talking about, which is just doing the little things right that lead to winning football. At South Carolina was Connor Shaw. I think it was 22 touchdowns he produced to just 1 interception in his senior season. And that was because he had to learn that, though. That was a process. Connor Shaw, Lenore Sellers, you could draw some parallels there, although Lenore Sellers is much more highly recruited. But Connor Shaw, like Sellers, was probably a little more armed more legs than arm when they got the starting job. And Sellers, is going to have to learn on the job a little bit. And part of that learning on the job is just understanding two things. One, getting rid of the football, because some of these turnovers have been kind of, he holding in the pocket too long. I think he's being sacked more than 4 times a game. Holding the pocket, waiting for receivers to pop open, and then just taking unnecessary hits sometimes when he's out there running, leading to fumbles. Those little things. And when you understand as a player, and I'm not saying I could have done it, because I know what life in the SEC must be like. It's borderline NFL in terms of its physicality.
Yeah.
But just learning to kind of give up on a play, either throw it out of bounds, or you don't reach out for that extra yard, or you have your head on a swivel and you know that you've got to get out of the pocket, and then you've got to get down before you take another big hit. And Sellers will learn all of that. He's in the lab, man, looking at all of the film and the bad things, the negative plays that have happened. And he knows what you just said to be true. If I get rid of those plays, we're probably 5-1. And it's an entirely different season. But that doesn't happen right off the rip. Connor Shaw didn't do that his sophomore year. He did that his senior year. So I think Sellers likely is going to learn those things. Look up the road. Clemson, Cade Klubnik, much better at that type of at where his receivers are going to be and having that clock inside his head. Sellers right now is relying on his legs a lot, and that's okay. His athleticism, that's his biggest attribute right now. But soon his experience is going to catch up to his athleticism, and then you're going to have a real dangerous quarterback.
We're talking to Matt Smith, Smitty, as we call him, of Sports Talk Media Network. Smitty, John and Clinton ask on the text line 71307, how long until Lenoris actually grows up and we quit talking about his growth that's needed?
Boy, that's a fair question. But because look, you want it to happen fast in this era, because so often you see a player develop. Look, Clemson, Virginia this weekend, Kobe Pace. Clemson developed Kobe Pace, and he goes with Tony Elliott over to Virginia. So fans don't want to wait around on these players all the time. Last year, I made this point on Sports Talk on Monday night. Everybody was saying, well, this offensive line is young, so Spencer Rattler doesn't have everything he needs this year. So South Carolina didn't get to a bowl game, even though he had some big numbers, and Xavier Legette was out there making acrobatic catches and making plays. Well, guess what? Now it's the following year, and this offensive line is young again. So I understand Gamecock fans' frustration. At some point, you're supposed to be a finished product. At some point, you're supposed to be fully formed, and you're just supposed to go out there arm in arm, and you're if not a veteran football team, you're an experienced football team. So when is it supposed to happen? I think it's fair to start talking about it now, and here's why. You just said it. Lenoir Sellers has seen all of this on film now. You don't have to beat your head against the door. You don't have to throw 20 interceptions to know how penal it is for your team, how devastating it is for your team. You just need to see it a few times. So now this is his second year playing, first year as a starter. Second half of the conference schedule, you ought to see improvement. If you don't see improvement, that's a Lenoir Sellers problem. Then that's between his ears. But if you see improvement now, then he's just doing what a young quarterback's supposed to do, which is grow up before your eyes.
And Smitty, I'm with you. I guess the reason, and again, I can't speak for every Gamecock fan, but I guess the reason for a lot of them asking those type of questions is, look, the reality is we just don't know, and I'm speaking as if I were a Gamecock fan, we just don't know how long Shane Beamer's going to be able to hold all these players together. What's next year going to look like? And I think it scares Gamecock fans,
Completely fair. Look, here's something that I was, to me, an observation from last week, and you can agree or disagree, and of course everybody listening they can have their own opinion, but to me, we're talking about Lenoir Sellers here. Whoever, and Dowell Loggins, as the offensive coordinator, I think he's getting some input from Mike Shula and other sources, but because I thought the game plan looked much better last week on the road at Alabama, route concepts and all of those things. But get the ball to Rocket Sanders if he's healthy, because we're talking about a young quarterback. Well, why is so much being put on him? Lenoir Sellers is carrying the football in the run game more than anybody else. Lenore Sellers is also having to make so many decisions as a quarterback, and obviously he's going to be your trigger man in the passing game and everything. Okay, that's okay. Well, what most successful clubs would do is, if they have a veteran running back, is you ride him, you lean on him. So then Lenore Sellers is able to throw against looks where they're having to defend Rocket Sanders, suck those safeties down, bring 8 men in the box, and let him throw against that look down the field to Mazeo Bennett and Nick Harbor. And Josh Simon. I would say, to me, one thing that the ingredient that might be missing right now is I would ride Rocket Sanders more. I know sometimes they get stoned in the run game, but you know what? It's like eating your vegetables. You have to do it. You have to run for 3 quarters at 3 yards per carry in order to wear that defense down in the fourth quarter, where you can start popping some. And we've seen it happen. Let's not pretend it didn't happen against LSU. Both Sellers and Sanders went for 75-yard touchdowns in the second half because they ran through an arm tackle. So I would say one of the elements that we need to see improvement on in the second half is, if he's healthy, that's a big if he's healthy, ride the 2 guys you've got back there, physical running backs, Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway III. Let them take some of the pressure off Lenore Sellers.
Freddie Freeman lines out to first. Tommy Edman strikes out swinging. The Dodgers leave 2 stranded in the top of the first, now heading to the bottom where the Mets will be due. Texter says, one of these weeks, Carolina will play a good team that isn't coming off an embarrassing loss, ... third week in a row. Very true. Smitty, let's flip the coin now to the other side, where the Clemson Tigers hosting Virginia on noon. It's sometimes, you have to tap yourself, wake yourself up sometimes, just to make sure that you're paying attention, because these blowouts can get monotonous at times. In your mind, Tony Elliott, homecoming, we all know what the narrative is. Any way that Virginia, in your mind, actually keeps this a game past halftime?
Not really. I was in Winston-Salem last week to watch Clemson just ragdoll Wake Forest. I actually don't think this will be quite as bad. There were just 38 yards in the second half for Wake, minus 11 in the third and 49 in the fourth in garbage time. Wes Goodwin makes some really good adjustments, and of course he's got some chess pieces to work with. Peter Woods just kind of gobbled up that slow mesh RPO concept that Dave Clawson wants his team to run. That was a bad combination. I actually think Virginia, if we really want to talk football, again, I don't think they have a chance to pull the upset, but if you want to talk football, Anthony Calandria, their quarterback, he's got some mobility, and he's kind of a wild card. So he's not easy to fit into. If you watch him on film, he's not going to do the same thing one week that he does the next, because he really likes the schoolyard style. So, yeah, they might do some things. They might move the football in certain ways, but I just have no idea how Virginia's defense, which is full of really, these are heady, solid, kind of your 3-star level defenders. I mean, they're good. They're a disciplined group. How do they stand up to Clemson in that run game? And now Clemson has some receivers that are hurt. Tyler Brown is out. Bryant Westcott Jr. both out with ankle injuries, but Adam Randall's healthy again. Antonio Williams is coming to his own. Jake Briningstool is Cade Klubnik's version of Travis Kelce. I think that Clemson rolls again. I would hesitate. I would only hesitate, and we're going to pick on Sports Talk. We have to pick against the spread. I might take Virginia, if only because I think this game will be full of such emotion. And if Dabo Swinney has the opportunity to put in an exclamation point touchdown, sometimes he does it, sometimes he doesn't. I don't think he'll do it this week out of respect for Tony Elliott and the Virginia program. I don't know if it'll make a difference. They might already be up. They might be leading 42-17. But I just kind of think Virginia is going to do 2 things. They'll score some points. They'll hang around. But my prediction is it won't be a game. I just don't think they've got the horses. In other words, I'm trying to be very nice. I think there's a lot of good things to say about Virginia where they are. They can beat Wake Forest, which they did 31-30. They can beat mid-level ACC teams like Boston College 24-14. But this is a step up in weight class, and I think Clemson's going to knock their teeth out. I don't know that it's going to get ugly, if only out of respect for Tony Elliott. And I mean, C.J. Spiller is going into the Ring of Honor. Tony Elliott coached, C.J. Spiller and coached alongside C.J. Spiller. There's just a lot of love there.
Smitty, we had a conversation yesterday before we let you go about gauging Clemson fans' confidence in what is today, October the 18th? Gauging their confidence on October 18th, looking ahead, because, in the media, we look ahead. Coaches can't, but we can, by God. Gauging Clemson fans' confidence as of October 18th, well, the 17th, because we had the conversation yesterday, but when it comes to how confident Clemson fans were that they would beat South Carolina in November, what do you think the overwhelming consensus from Clemson fans was yesterday on the show? Best guess.
It could not have been super confident. It has to be, they're only 60% sure they're going to win again.
Well, I guess we have overconfident, overcocky Clemson fans because it was a lot. I mean, we had 30, 35 texts and posts or comments about it during the conversation. It was a lot of 9 out of 10, a lot of 8.5 out of 10 Clemson fans' confidence. No surprise there, right?
Oh, look, I'll say this. Yes, they're in a soft part of the schedule. Clemson's in a soft part of the schedule, but the way they played last week, at a Legacy Stadium in Winston, they would have beaten almost anyone. I mean, that was a buttoned-up group. Clemson, for the most part, was healthy. They were obviously executing the game plan. Obviously, as I said, Wake Forest not in their weight class, but that was a Clemson team that was ready to play. Could be different in November. Let's see how November treats them. Let's see where their injuries are. And the reason that I think South Carolina has a fighter's chance to knock off Clemson this season is, it's somebody I've been talking about for a few weeks. And by the way, I should say my prediction was way off last week. I was right about Oregon pulling that set over Ohio State. I was right about that.
Yes.
But I was wrong, dead wrong. I didn't think South Carolina was going to be in that game at Alabama, and they were. So I was dead wrong. So maybe I don't know enough about South Carolina. I'm wrong on them every week of what you're going to get. But I just think one thing I was right about is Kyle Kennard. After having seen him against Old Dominion, you were there in the press box with me. After having seen him and then watching him week in, week out, the way this guy's motor is, he's on a mission. He was just named a midseason All-American, I think, by Sporting News or some other publication. He's one of the best pass rushers in the nation. That is a difference maker. So I would just urge Clemson fans, don't forget this. Pass rush changes ball games. Your offense is just not nearly as pretty. There is nobody right now at Wake Forest or in the team you're going to face this week in Virginia that is anything like Kyle Kennard or Dylan Stewart. That's a different level, and we'll see how that changes things as when we finally get to that game. But look, Clemson has plenty to be proud of, and they are going to be good. I think they're a 10-win team. Look, advantage at quarterback. Klubnik's been an ace this year. Advantage at wide receiver. Those wide receivers for Clemson have emerged along the offensive line. They finally figured things out under Matt Luke. They're not committing a lot of dumb penalties the way South Carolina's offensive line is. So I think Clemson has a lot of advantages over the Gamecocks. But one thing South Carolina has is a pass rush, and that's what makes games ugly. And look, that could be the difference tomorrow. I think South Carolina's going to beat Oklahoma on the road. This is not a good Oklahoma offense, and they're fresh off a players-only meeting. They're spinning out there. Another former Sweeney coordinator in Brent Venables, they're spinning their wheels a little bit out in Norman, Oklahoma. And if South Carolina plays the way that they played last week, not the way they played 2 weeks ago in the blowout loss to Ole Miss, but the way they played last week, they'll go to Norman, Oklahoma and pull what I don't know if it's an upset or not. I think they might even be a favorite at this point.
They are.
The money's been moving in Vegas.
Yeah, the money has moved a lot. You're right. South Carolina is now favored by 1 as of right now. We were talking about that just a few minutes ago. Smitty of Sports Talk Media Network. A lot of respect, a lot of love for you, Smitty. You were one of the ones that a long time ago helped me get into radio. Really appreciate. Not trying to tell your age or anything, but this is my 12th season broadcasting high school football, and I believe my first ever season, and I was still in high school. I was working with you, and you were a big part of helping me get into radio. So I appreciate you. Have a lot of respect and love for you, and always will.
Cole, there's nothing but love, man. And I'm a better scout than I was a player. I can scout it. I can see the talent. I've found some good ones, and you're certainly one of them. I'm definitely proud. I'm proud of every, the crew that we came from, that group that we came from, learning everything together, and learned a lot from Mark Hauser. Is another good one.
Yeah.
Learned a lot from Mark Hauser, for those that remember him, former voice of the Greenville Braves and Wofford Terriers for a long time. All right, I'll give my upset pick.
Let's hear it. Let's go.
Yeah, because I want it now. I want to be a part of it. I'm so excited. Once I got a little, I got a little taste. I wet my beak because I got a win last week, and I know it was a weak one, and so I understand that you want to hear me go take a 14-point underdog, but as I scan the board, I've got to say there's one game that jumped out to me, and I'll get it in tonight under the wire. Florida State is a 3-point underdog to Duke. And my issue with that is, look, Florida State's got all sorts of problems. I think we all know that. They are a psychotic group. But come on, look at the level of talent. If these guys have their heads screwed on straight, coming off a bye week, and I think the best thing that happened for them, and I hate it for him individually, but the best thing that happened to this Florida State team is get DJ Uyunglele out of the lineup. It's bad that he took an injury for him to do it. I'm saddened by that because by all reports he's a great guy. But this Florida State team was having to read those headlines all the time. What's wrong with DJ? DJ, the problem with the offense, all those things. They needed to just flush that, get that out of their system. And I think just the talent on defense, I think this Duke team has played great, played above their heads, but they have done it against a real Punch and Judy schedule. So I'm going to take Florida State tonight. I know it's another week when I'll start picking some 10-point underdogs starting next week, but I can't pass this one. I like Florida State and if they don't win tonight, if they don't go out and beat Duke, well, then we can write them off. Then you can start betting against Florida State the rest of the way.
That's right.
Because they've given up.
Smitty, great stuff as always. We appreciate you, and we will talk to you again next week, man.
All right. Enjoy your show and enjoy the call tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks, Smitty. That's Matt Smith of Sports Talk Media Network. Always a pleasure having Smitty on. He's going FSU over Duke. That is a 3-point spread. So I have Smitty's pick on the spreadsheet for the Upset Picks Challenge. We will get into Clemson. I'll give you my prediction. I did give you South. Did I give you South? No, I didn't. I apologize. I failed to do so. I told you I was going to do that like 40 minutes ago. I don't think I gave you either a prediction. We'll continue the Upset Picks Challenge, and I'll give you, as our Tolos have done so well on the text line, I'll get to those texts, and I'll give you my score predictions. South Carolina, Oklahoma, Clemson, Virginia, next.
844 fan phone.
This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
You can get your upset picks in 71307, but I told you like 45 minutes ago I'd give you my South Carolina-Oklahoma prediction. I also told you I'd give you my Clemson-Virginia prediction. On the stream where you can watch the show, 95 people watching right now, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, Madcraft says 24-18 Carolina over Oklahoma and 48-23 Clemson over Virginia. God, 48. You think Dabo's going to hang 48 Madcraft on his old coach? That's that's a lot of points. That's a lot of points. Tolo Tom texts in and says, Cole, the Gamecocks win tomorrow 28-14. Love, Tolo Tom. He's signing his text with love, Tolo Tom. That's fantastic. Fantastic, Tom. Good to hear from you. He also texted in again a minute later and says, all caps, Clemson sucks. You can probably guess who Tom is a fan of. Let's see. Lyman Rob wanted to get his prediction in, 24-17 Oklahoma over South Carolina. Lyman Rob said Clemson 42, Virginia 21. Let's see. Scotty from BMW says South Carolina 21, Oklahoma 10, Clemson 41, Virginia 7. That's from Scotty from BMW. Texter from the 221 says South Carolina 31, Oklahoma 20. And let's see, Clemson 38, Virginia 24. That comes from the 221. Billy Ho says South Carolina 31, Oklahoma 20, Clemson 38, Virginia 24. So Tolo's continuing to get their Carolina Clemson picks in against Oklahoma and Virginia, as well as the upset picks challenge. Styles chimes in and says Georgia Tech over Notre Dame plus 14. That's his upset pick. Jarrett Tripp wants FAU plus 6.5 over UTSA. Brandon Burnett taking Kent State for 21 over Bowling Green. Let's see here. Let me make sure I haven't missed any on the text line. Leprechaun of Lyman. What's up, Leprechaun of Lyman? He wants Oklahoma State over BYU plus 9. That's a fairly popular pick, Leprechaun of Lyman. Let's see. Texter says 262, Oklahoma 23, South Carolina 20. Texter asked from the 828, was Smitty on the old ESPN Spartanburg AM station with Hauser back in the day? Texter, he was. That's where I got my start in radio years ago. That is Smitty with Sports Talk Media Network. Does a fantastic job, and we love having him on the show on Fridays. Texter says, and this might be, let's see, is this Tolo Tom? Yes, it is Tolo Tom. Tolo Tom says Virginia 69, Clemson 0. Nice, Tolo Tom. Very nice. Very, very nice. I'll tell you this. I do think South Carolina and Clemson both win tomorrow. I think both fan bases find themselves very happy going into next week. I think South Carolina wins 20-14. So give me the Gamecocks over the Sooners, 20-14. 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals for the Gamecocks, 2 touchdowns for the Sooners, 20-14 South Carolina over Oklahoma. And then in the Valley tomorrow at noon, Clemson, Virginia. I agree with Smitty in the sense of I don't think it'll be close, but at the same time, I think Dabo Swinney has way too much respect for his former coordinator in Tony Elliott, and I don't think he's going to run up the score on him. I don't think. I could be wrong, but I don't think he is. I will say Clemson wins tomorrow over Virginia. 42-13. 42-13. So 42-13. Clemson over Virginia, and you may say, well, Cole, that kind of seems like running it up. I don't know, 42 points. I don't think that's really running it up. 42-13. Texter says Haynes King is out tomorrow for GT, for Georgia Tech. That's brutal. That's brutal. Haynes King out for Georgia Tech. Texter, thank you for texting that in. Again, they are playing Notre Dame. That is. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. You're right. 4 hours ago, sources Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King out. Let's see who's going to start. Is it going to be Pyron? Probably their backup. Yeah. Haynes King dealing with that upper body injury still. I thought it was day-to-day last we heard on the injury report, but an experienced backup. He's played in 16 career games, started twice as a freshman in 2022. Pyron is the backup, redshirt junior. I don't know. That does sway Tolos, in my opinion, from taking Georgia Tech in the win tomorrow. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't take that game. Thank you, Texter from the 854. Texter from the 803 says 2 field goals for Carolina. What's the yardage distance on those 2, Mitch Jeter? I know South Carolina has had issues with their field goals. I'm very aware. And I don't know, Mitch Jeter, if that's who's texting in or if you're making a Mitch Jeter reference. But I do think they might get 2. And yardage wise, short, 20s to 30s. Hey, look, you 51-yard field goal. You ask a guy to make a 51-yard field goal. I don't know. You know what? How much blame do you put on a guy for that, right? How much blame do you put on someone? All right, we're going to take a break. On the other side, the Carolina Panthers, man, they're faced with a tough one this weekend. No moral victories in Charlotte. They have 1 win on the season, but what can they do? I mean, this is a good Washington football team they'll see against a good quarterback, a good rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. We'll get into that next right here on the Fan Upstate. A tough one on Sunday. I really feel for Panthers fans. We know that one win, and it's an uphill climb. It's an uphill battle for the Carolina Panthers. But you look at this weekend, and the Panthers have the Washington Commanders. It's going to be a very tough game. The Carolina Panthers. I didn't think I was at that game last week. By the way. With the Panthers and the Falcons. I didn't think the Panthers played awful on Sunday. I thought you saw some improvements. You look at what Andy Dalton did. He wasn't bad. He was serviceable. He managed the game well. Carolina is starting to run the ball a little bit better. The Panthers are. So, look. You're 1-5, and I know a 1-5 football team doesn't want to hear about the positives. However, I do think there are some measurables that you can see improvement on, and the Carolina Panthers have shown that in the last few. Plus, you get Jonathan Brooks back, who's been injured, who was your draft pick from Texas, who's a really good running back. And look, I was very high on Jonathan Brooks coming out of the draft. I know he had an injury, so there was a lot of hesitation in terms of whether or not the Carolina Panthers should have selected Jonathan Brooks. But I think that his ceiling gives you the best running back in your running back room. So what I mean is I think when he's healthy, if he gets to a ceiling, if he performs like we saw Jonathan Brooks perform in college at Texas, I think he has a very good chance to show that he's the best running back in the running back room. He could be a difference maker. Look, they're 1-5. He's not going to come in this year and save the season. I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination. However, right now you have to have positives. You have to have things that you can build on. These are two different teams that are going in completely different directions, with the Commanders being 4-2. By the way, they're 2-0 at home. They have not lost a home game as of yet. This game is in Washington. Washington has a 74.8% chance to win the game in the matchup predictor, according to ESPN Analytics. Carolina only a 25% chance to win the matchup. I don't think there's anybody out there right now who are giving the Carolina Panthers much of a shot. Andy Dalton, 95 of 144 on the season, 896 yards. Andy Dalton should eclipse the 1,000-yard mark, you would imagine, against Washington. 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the season. But you look on the flip side of that coin, what Jaden Daniels has done, 125 of 166, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. Not only is Jaden Daniels a better quarterback, he's more efficient right now. Chuba Hubbard, the Carolina Panthers are starting, as of right now, are getting a little bit more out of their run game than Washington is. So maybe that's an area you look at, and you kind of feel as if the Carolina Panthers have a shot or have a chance to win the game. But I just don't feel like the Carolina Panthers do have a very good shot to go in and win this game on Sunday. Right now, Washington is favored by 9.5 points. They have set the total at 50.5 points. If I had to take the spread, if I had to put money on this game, I would say that Washington does cover. Again, it goes back to these two franchises are just going in two totally opposite directions. And, we talked about the improvement from Andy Dalton. The one game he came in against the Raiders and looked good. You saw improvement, but there was just no consistency. They didn't really look all that competitive against the Bengals the next week at home, and then last week at home against the Falcons, struggled there. So you've just got to start figuring out how to, if you are the Carolina Panthers, creating some consistency within this organization, within the guys you have on the roster. And the struggle right now is obviously not only the defense is giving up way too many big plays. Last week, Atlanta had way too many guys just wide open on big plays that Carolina defense just whiffed on. But right now, Carolina's offense is struggling to create any type of consistency. So I think it'll be a long weekend for the Panthers. I think it's going to be a long season. I hate to be Debbie Downer there, but the Panthers just, once again, going in the wrong direction. I don't think they have a very good shot. However, there are some other really good games in the National Football League on Sunday. Not Sunday morning, by the way, 9:30 in London. The Patriots and the Jags, both 1-5. Not a ton to shake a stick at there. Seattle and Atlanta should be intriguing, though. That's a game that you could keep your eye on. In that 1 o'clock time slot, I do find myself very intrigued with Houston and Green Bay. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers are 2.5-point favorites over C.J. Stroud. I mean, you're going to see two very good quarterbacks in this ball game. So that's one, obviously, to keep your eye on. Also in that same exact time slot, Minnesota hosting Detroit. Minnesota right now favored by 1.5. Jared Goff, 1,330 yards on the season, 8 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Should be a very good game. Let's see. A matchup of the Super Bowl matchup, 425, what you saw last year, the Chiefs in San Francisco, 425 on Fox. San Francisco, the home team, favored by 2 points. Remember, especially in the NFL, the home team's going to get somewhere between 2.5 to 3 points just because of the virtue of them being the home team. So it really, to me, this line shows that the Chiefs are about a point better than the 49ers. They did get 2 to 3 points because of the home field advantage, but it's an interesting point spread. The total in this game set at 46.5 between the Chiefs and the 49ers. And then Sunday Night Football, Jets-Steelers. That game, maybe intriguing. Don't know if Devontae Adams can suit up quite this quickly and go for the New York Jets, as he was just traded to the New York Jets this week. And then Monday Night Football, Ravens-Buccaneers. Luckily, my Cowboys are off this week, so I don't have any misery to take part in this weekend. Tolos, you can still get your upset picks in. However, time is dwindling down by a large margin. You have about an hour exactly to get your upset picks in. We are well over 100 upset picks for the week. Text 71307 after you have found the game, the underdog that you like to win this weekend. We need your name, the game, and the spread, and that's how you can enter the upset picks challenge. The Burns Rebel pregame show begins at 7 p.m. Tonight with myself and Lane Fowler. Kickoff at 7:30. One more hour of the program coming your way. We'll have the weekend menu as we do on Fridays at 6 o'clock. We'll also have an interview from Will Young, the head football coach of the Career Yellow Jackets. We talked to Will Young yesterday. We'll have that for you in the 6 o'clock hour. And again, your last chance to get your upset picks in, 71307. Start your text with the word fan.
Let's go. From the fields to the courts and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
on the Fan Upstate.
Texter says there are 2 Monday night games on Monday, Ravens, Bucks, and Chargers, Cardinals. Texter, appreciate you catching that. I believe I just gave one. Final hour of the program, Wire to Wire. Diesel is out today. He'll be back on Monday. I'm Cole Bryson, so good to be with you. 1 hour from now, the Burns Rebels pregame show will be live, and then 7:30 kickoff between Burns and Eastside right here on the Fan Upstate. Every Friday on the program, we take a look at the weekend menu, the best games and the best time slots across your TV screen or screens. You can't say screen anymore because of YouTube TV. It is nice, though. However, I'll tell you this. Sometimes the 4 games is a little much. Sometimes I find myself wanting to focus in on one instead of watching 4. Like if I'm watching 3, and let's say the one in the top right corner is a really good game, sometimes I find myself wanting to get rid of the other 3 and just put the good game on. Again, I'm not going to complain about having 4 games, right? What a problem I have. YouTube TV is the best. So here is the weekend menu, the best time slots are the best games in the time slots this weekend on your TV screen. You can agree or disagree. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Again, 71307, keyword fan. Phone lines are also open in this segment as well. We'll have Will Young, the head football coach of the Greer Yellow Jackets, an interview from yesterday on the other side in about 15 to 20 minutes right here on the program. But let's get into it. The weekend menu tonight. There are 4 games tonight in college football. 1 hour from right now, Florida State in Durham at Wallace Wade Stadium. Duke 5-1, 1-1 in the ACC. Florida State 1-5, 1-4 in the ACC. This was Matt Smith, who joined us about an hour ago of Sports Talk Media Network. This was Matt's upset pick of the week. Again, only a 3-point pick, but it's a pretty good pick. Florida State, you feel like, should be able to go on the road and keep it competitive against Duke. So tonight, Florida State, Duke, Oregon, Purdue, Oklahoma State, BYU, and then at 10:30, Fresno State, Nevada. A little late night, Friday night football for you college football fans. Oregon, Purdue is now up to 30 points. Oregon favored by 30. Don't expect that one to be close. I don't know if they cover, but I don't think it will be close. And then at 10:15 tonight, Oklahoma State, BYU. BYU is favored by 9. That is a game that I do believe we talked about in the very first segment of the show at 3 o'clock today in terms of being a game that that team in BYU needs because they're on the playoff bubble, if you will. They have not lost as of yet, but if they were to lose tonight to Oklahoma State, their chances of making the now expanded 12-team college playoff would obviously take a hit. And then on Saturday, tomorrow, the best games in the time slots weekend menu will start at the noon, what we call the appetizer time slot. There are several good games at noon, but you tell me if you believe this is the best time slot or if it's not. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. You can watch the show there. Wesley asked, Cole, you like anything tonight in college football? Wesley, before I get to the weekend menu, I will answer your question. Do I like anything tonight in college football? Number one, if I like it, you should take the opposite because you never listen to me for cheese advice. I do like Florida State +3. I do like Florida State +3, and I do like BYU. I've been going back and forth on BYU, Oklahoma State. Obviously, the money line's way too expensive there, Wesley, but I did toss around the idea of going 9. It's a lot of points. I'm not taking 30 in Oregon. It's too many points for me to take tonight, Wesley. What do you think, Wesley? What games intrigue you tonight? I did take the Dodgers, by the way, Wesley, earlier in the day today. I did think the Dodgers were going to close the series out. And right now, getting you an update, New York leads the game 3-1. So the Mets are on top right now. In the middle of the third, it's 3-1 Mets on top of the Dodgers. Again, goes to show, Wesley, if I pick the Dodgers, you should pick the opposite. You should pick the Mets, and usually you'll be a winner. 12 o'clock time slot for the weekend menu tomorrow right here on the Fan Upstate. Let's start with Miami-Louisville. A noon o'clock game. I know one of our Tolos Madcraft will be very interested in this one. This game is at Louisville, and Miami on the road. They find themselves as 5-point favorites. Louisville's defense in this one has been good. However, it has not been, or let me back up. Louisville's defense this season against the run has been good. However, it has not been good against running quarterbacks. If you look at the teams and the FBS teams that Louisville has played this year, the quarterback on every team is the leading rusher against the Cardinals. That's a concern because Cam Ward can run 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the season. Cam Ward, in my mind, tomorrow at noon, will run a good bit on Louisville, and I do like that game. I do think that's one of the better games in the noon time slot. You have Virginia Clemson also in the noon time slot. I know locally that'll have a lot of interest. I don't know how much interest that will have from a national scale, though. From a national perspective, Cade Klubnik, 1,500 yards on the season, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Also at noon tomorrow, you do have a Big Ten matchup of Nebraska-Indiana. Indiana 16 in the country. That's a good one. You also have another ranked team in Missouri at noon hosting Auburn. Don't think that game will be close. It's a 4-point spread. I don't know why. This seems like a trap game for me because it seems like Missouri should cover that line comfortably. So I may look at that as a trap game. Wesley, to answer your question, though, how about let's play that Missouri -4 tomorrow, right? He says, I actually agree with you tonight. I think I like Purdue with the points. Wesley, let's look at that game tomorrow, though. Missouri -4 over Auburn. What am I missing there, Wesley, on the Facebook stream? That could be an interesting game. That could be interesting. I do like those 4 points in terms of Missouri being favored. Let's see what else. In the noon o'clock time slot, ranked Army, number 23 in the country, hosting ECU. I know Army's a ranked team. They're 6-0, but not much interest there. The Big Ten matchup between Wisconsin and Northwestern, not a lot of interest. Let's see. Also in the noon time slot, you have Arizona State and Cincinnati. You have Louisiana and Coastal. And then at 12:45, I'll count that one in the 12 o'clock time slot because it's 12:45 SEC Network, Oklahoma versus South Carolina. That's intriguing, obviously, locally, but from the national perspective, I think it's more intriguing than Clemson. And so that's the noontime slot for you Tolos out there that want to. Again, I don't think it's a terrible time slot, but for you Tolos out there that might want to plop down on the couch and watch some football at noon. In the 3:30 time slot tomorrow, it seems as if this is a stronger time slot at 3:30 than the noon. Obviously, Alabama-Tennessee tomorrow, where Alabama is a 3-point favorite over the Volunteers. That's going to get a lot of interest. Alabama should be favored, but I think this game's very important. It's very intriguing for several reasons. I said in the very first segment of the show that the loser of this game kind of finds themselves in a pinch, kind of finds themselves in a tough spot because in terms of making the playoff, you'd have 2 losses. And this game's important, man. This game's very, very important. I think this will be one of the better games of the day. Also, in that 3:30 time slot, you have Notre Dame, Georgia Tech. Notre Dame 5-1, Georgia Tech 5-2. Haynes King, we did learn not long ago from one of our Tolos who texted in. We appreciate you doing that, by the way. We did learn that Haynes King has been ruled out for that game tomorrow. The point spread, I have not seen a ton of movement since Haynes King was ruled out for that game. But obviously, we've had that as one of the more popular upset picks of the week. It just will be intriguing to see if that line moves anymore between now and tomorrow at 3:30 when that game kicks off. Also in the 3:30 time slot, a top 25 matchup, Michigan-Illinois. That game is a 3.5-point spread in favor of Michigan. Looking at the rest of that time slot, though, you're pretty much donezo on those 2 games. Like it's not a deep time slot, but those two games are pretty good games, especially Alabama, Tennessee. So that's your 3:30 time slot. You do have USC, Maryland at 4. That's intriguing in a way. USC's favored by 7.5, and I say it's intriguing just from the standpoint of the train seems to be heading off the rails for Lincoln Riley. Can they get it back on the rails tomorrow on the road? That'll be a big one, obviously, tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And then another good game in the time slots, Colorado, Arizona, right? Anytime Colorado plays, it's a game to watch. They are 2-point underdogs in that 4 o'clock time slot. In the 4:15 time slot on the SEC network, following the South Carolina-Oklahoma game, you have A&M and Mississippi State. No interest there. A&M's a 19.5-point favorite. Mississippi State just 1-5. On the season, 0-3 in conference play. 7 o'clock time slot, though, a little better. LSU, Arkansas. LSU, look, they're only favored by 2.5 points. Garrett Nussmeier, 1,900 yards, almost 2,000 yards already on the season. 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC. We talked about Garrett Nussmeier earlier in the week, but that game's intriguing, man. And look, I know it's not a top 25 matchup or anything like that, but Arkansas only being 2.5-point underdogs is very interesting. Very interesting. It seems to me like they should be favored by a little more than 2.5. What do you think, Tolos, on that? Over set at 56.5. And then obviously the game of the week that everybody's going to talk about, but it happens to be in the same time slot as LSU Arkansas just 30 minutes later, the best game of the week in Austin, Texas, at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium. Carson Beck and the Georgia Bulldogs, ranked number 5 in the country, taking on the number 1 team in the land, Texas Longhorns. Texas 6-0, 2-0 in the SEC. Georgia 5-1, 3-1 in the SEC. Carson Beck, 1,818 yards on the season, 15 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. This one's the one. This one's the one that everybody's going to have their eyes on, rightfully so, right? It's the game that everybody wants to tune in to tomorrow night. Last week, we all know what game was king last weekend, and now Georgia, Texas kind of takes over in that 7:30 time slot. Not only takes over the time slot, but really takes over the weekend as the best game of the entire weekend. Texas favored by 4.5 points tomorrow night at home in Austin. The total is set at 57.5. That one will be interesting. Look, I think Texas right now is the best team in the country. I don't think Georgia wins. Could I be wrong? Sure. But I think Texas is the best team. And look, Georgia, what I saw from Georgia in the second half against Alabama, I thought was very impressive. Now, Alabama, I thought kind of turned it off a little bit in the second half in that game. But I just don't expect Kirby Smart to roll in and look lifeless. They're going to make it a game all the way until the end, in my opinion. I think it'll be very competitive. But I think Texas gets the last laugh. You know, I think Texas covers the 4.5 as well. I really do. I think Texas probably wins this game by 7 points on Saturday night, 7:30, again in Austin. But as far as the 7:30 time slot goes, you have Kentucky, Florida at 7:45. Not really much interest there. And then the late time slot tomorrow night, 10 p.m., you have UNLV at Oregon State. UNLV is 6.5-point favorites. Total set at 59.5. Also at 10:30, TCU versus Utah. Utah favored by 3.5. So some Big 12 football to end the night on ESPN, which I don't think will be a terrible game. I think that could be a good game between TCU and Utah. Texter from the 221 ask, is it true that if Clemson, Miami, and SMU all went out, that due to the tiebreakers that Clemson would get left out of the ACC championship? Let's see. SMU, they already have a loss. I don't know that would be. I guess it's theoretically possible. I just don't know that. I just don't know that Clemson would get left out. Explain to me more, Texter, if you don't mind, on that. You're saying Clemson would not make the conference championship game? There's only 4 teams left with 0 losses. Clemson plays one of them. That's Pitt, right? knocking them out of the championship if Clemson wins out. So that leaves Miami and SMU. That means they both have to win out and both be ranked ahead of Clemson, right? And I don't see that happening. They have a loss. SMU has a loss. Who's SMU's loss to? To answer your question, Texter, I don't think it'll happen. Whether they're 5-1 on the season, they lost to BYU. They don't have a conference loss, but again, they don't play Clemson or Miami, so it's very interesting how that schedule kind of sets up the rest of the year. SMU at Stanford this weekend, and they have Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, Cal. So they'll eliminate that Pittsburgh. Look, SMU or Pitt play each other, and Clemson also plays Pitt, so there will be a loss between. I don't know. That Texter, I do not think that's true. I don't think Clemson would get left out due to the tiebreakers. Again, I have to go through all the tiebreakers and see exactly how that would play out. But a very interesting question, because the reality is SMU and Clemson and Miami undefeated in conference. Clemson don't play Miami in the conference. Clemson doesn't play SMU. SMU doesn't play Clemson or Miami either. So it is a very interesting question. Tolos, time is ticking on the Upset Picks Challenge. If you have not done so yet, time is running out. Today, we have had a good many of picks come in on the text line. Let's see. I'll start at the very top of the show today. You can still get your upset pick in for the week, but you have like 30 more minutes. We have so far today, Sheezy took Georgia Tech plus 14 over Notre Dame. Lyman Robb took Nebraska plus 6.5 over Indiana. Let's see here. I'm going through the text line, getting to all the upset picks for today. Ty Duncan, 864. His upset pick was Louisville over Miami plus 5. Buckeye Mike said Purdue will cover and BYU will win. That was back to the conversation we had earlier in the show. Amazon guy said his upset pick, NC State over Cal for 10.5 points. That was also my upset pick, Amazon guy. Matt J took Old Dominion plus 10 over Texas State. Grandpa Bucky wanted Maryland over USC for 7 points. At J-Rock took Oregon State plus 6 over UNLV. Jay Waller and Anderson took Georgia Tech plus 14 over Notre Dame. Let's see. Keith and TR. He took Auburn over Missouri plus 4. Trey in Kentucky took Arizona State versus Cincinnati for 5.5. T-Ray on the text line took NC State over Cal, 10.5. Buckeye Brian took North Texas plus 11.5 over Memphis. Shane W took North Texas plus 11.5 over Memphis as well. Justin L today took Georgia Southern plus 10 versus JMU. That's a really interesting pick, by the way. Dion took Southern Miss plus 7 versus Arkansas State. Sherb took Virginia plus 21 over Clemson. Let's see. Joey took Purdue plus 30 over Oregon. Wow, Joey, swinging for the fences, aren't we? I'll tell you what, I don't know if that happens. Brandon Burnett takes Kent State for 21 over Bowling Green. Let's see. Jarrett Tripp, FAU plus 6.5 over UTSA. Styles took Georgia Tech over Notre Dame plus 14. Percy took Duke 3. Percy, we need the game and the amount of points. So, Percy, we need the game, Duke versus who. I will give you credit for it, though, if you have already tuned out. Leprechaun of Lyman, Oklahoma State over BYU plus 9. Let's see. Any other upset picks that have come in? Oh, here we go. Ben D. Artist says, let me get Georgia plus 4 over Texas. So Ben D. Artist getting his upset pick in, Georgia plus 4 over Texas. And Joey says the scenario of Clemson being left out of the ACC championship is entirely possible. The first 3 tiebreakers would not apply. He says because the 4th tiebreaker is strength of schedule. So entirely possible Clemson's left out. Joey, that's fascinating. Again, thank you for that text. Again, still a lot of football left to play between those 3 teams, but appreciate the text on that. 71307 again. That is the text line. If you want to get in, it is your chance to do so. Time's running out. It is right now 6:20. You have until about 6:52 to get your upset pick in for the day, and that's going to be all she wrote because the show goes off the air about that time. And then the Burns Rebels pregame show will begin at 7 p.m. tonight with myself and Lane Fowler. Burns is at Eastside tonight. That's where I am. If you can hear the music in the background, I am at John Carlisle Stadium at Eastside High School, where Eastside and Burns will be going at it. We will hear from the head football coach of the Greer Yellow Jackets, Will Young, in the very next segment. We caught up with him yesterday. We'll have that conversation for you next right here on the Fan Upstate.